other than Dr. Ling from the Bach Hospital. We all know him well, and he is going to talk on non-culprit lesion intervention in STEMI. Should or should not. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Professor Ko, for your introduction, and it's my pleasure to be here today to present for you my mentor about should they open the non-culprit lesion in STEMI. Do you have a complete answer yet? So first of all, I want to show you a case of 57 years gentleman. It is inferior MI, the BP is 100/70, and you see the SD elevation in D2, D3 in IVF. And on the angiogram, you can see that there's a tight stenosis in the mid-circ, and the LED looks fine. But definitely the culprit lesion is the mid-RCA, which is a huge thrombus here. So it's a very typical case of the STEMI that we can see in everyday practice. So as an interventionist, we do have a couple of questions. The first one, should we open the circ or not? Of course, we should open the culprit lesion, which is the RCA, but should we open the circumflex? And if yes, what is the best timing to do it? During the primary PCI, during the index admission, or just send the patient home and bring him back for after several weeks and do the stage PCI. We do know that the STEMI patient with multivessel disease has much worse outcomes compared to patient with single vessel disease. So what the guidelines said, the ESC 2012 said that primary PCI should be limited only to the culprit vessel, with the exception of cardiogenic shock. So you see that when I was in Heart Center Singapore as a fellow about 6 years ago, it is what we did, that we only opened total revascularization only in the cardiogenic shock condition. Otherwise, you do the culprit lesion only. But the guideline has changed a lot. In 2014, the ESC guideline said that immediate opening of the non-culprit lesion may be considered with it is the class 2B guideline, and stage revascularization for non-culprit lesion should be considered in STEMI. With multivessel disease, it is class 2A, so it is a difference already. And the latest guideline from ESC from myocardial infarction revascularization said that routine revascularization of non-culprit lesion should be considered in every patient before hospital discharge, which is 2A, and the routine total open of all vessel is not recommended in case of cardiogenic shock. So it's totally opposite of the ESC guideline in 2012. And if you look at the literature, we do have a lot of trial has been conducted in this field, and I want to notice that among these studies, only the culprit shock is the trial that is studied in the patient with cardiogenic shock. So it is a totally different clinical scenario. So what the culprit shock says, it studied about 700 patients with multivessel disease, acute MI with cardiogenic shock, and the endpoint is death plus renal replacement. And after 30 days, in the total revascularization group, the endpoint is 55%, and in the culprit lesion group only it is 46%. So it absolutely shows that doing the culprit lesion only is far better than total revascularization. And so it is a different story. And if you see the history of STEMI intervention, you see that after 20 years, we do have a lot of development and progression. We have better strategy for better door-to-balloon time. We have better devices from the first generation of STEM to the second, the third, and the fourth generation. We do have a lot of assisted devices like the balloon pump, impeller, and VET, and we have better medication. We have IVERS, OCT, we have everything. But after 20 years, you can see that in the 1999, the shock trial showed that the 30-day mortality of patients with acute MI and cardiogenic shock is 46%, and in nearly 20 years after that, the complete shock showed that the mortality rate is 45%, so there's nothing changed. So my opinion is that in the condition of cardiogenic shock, you just open the coupling lesion and then we stop, we remove the device, you get the flow, and then we're done with the vessel. So there's no need to do the total revascularization. So in case of the non-shock patient, we do have the primary trial, the COVID trial show that preventive PCI, that means that you open the total revascularization, show is much better than doing the coupling lesion only, which is shown on many trials recently. And the Dynamic 3 trial show that it can be better if you use FFR to see if the vessel is significant or not. And if it is ischemic driven revascularization, it shows that total revascularization is much better with the risk of MACE is just 5% compared to 17% of the coupling lesion only. And here comes the big boys in 2019, the complete trial design. So what they did is that they opened the vessel and then we randomized within 3 days to the PCI group or the medication group. And what the complete trial says is that the total revascularization group is better than the complete lesion. And in conclusion, in the ESC several months ago, they said that complete revascularization was superior to complete lesion only PCI. So I know that everyone has known about the complete trial, but I want to notice 2 things that is very important in the complete trial. First is the timing for non-complete lesion PCI. So if you take a closer look, you can see that the timing of the non-complete lesion PCI did not impact the outcomes, whether you do it during index admission or you do it after hospital discharge. The outcomes stay the same, so you can do it after several days or several weeks, it's okay. But per protocol, as the trial says that the non-complete lesion PCI was to be performed by not later than 45 days, that means not later than 6 weeks. Of course, we do have pros and cons during index admission. Score is just the mean standard score is just 4.6 point, and after you open the coupling lesion, you have the residual score after the index PCI. So the standard score is just 7.2, so it's very low. That means we see the patient is very low complexity of non-coupling lesion. It's the type A or even type B lesion. You don't have CTO, you don't have very severe calcification, you don't have bifurcation or trifurcation now because the standard score is very low. And that means that it can only open the totally in case of low complexity. We do have the Explorer trial showing that doing the CTO intervention in STEMI, they randomized that we should doing the CTO within 7 days or no CTO beside. And the following up to 4 months showed that the CTO beside has a worse outcome than the no CTO. And this result was confirmed after 5 years following up, showing that you open all the version and you do not bring anything good for the patient. So I think the answer is quite clear now. We have a patient with a quite simple lesion in the mid-circ here, so should it do the open the vessel totally? The answer is yes. We have a little bit more complex lesion from the proximal third to the distal third. Maybe you should open it. And if you have a very severe disease in the third and total occlusion of the LAD, the answer is no. You should not do the complete revascularization a little bit. So maybe I don't think that maybe we have the algorithm for STEMI patient with multivessel disease. That's with cardiogenic shock. We do the complete lesion beside only. You open it, you restore the flow, and you have the root BP, and you quit, get the patient out of the cath lab. And in the patient without cardiogenic shock, with low complexity of non-complete lesion, we do the total revascularization, maybe immediate or stage PCI. And the high complexity, we consider complete lesion PCI only, and it is based on the decision of the interventionist. I hope that you guys agree with me, and I do look forward to discussion with you later on. But please come back to our case. You see, 57-year-old gentleman, 1 day chest pain, BP 1120 over 70, and you see the total occlusion of the mid-RCA, which is a complete lesion, type A stenosis of the mid-circ. So the answer is that the BP is okay, it is not cardiogenic shock, and the lesion is simple, I have to say that. So should do the complete revascularization. So my plan is to do the thrombectomy and open the distal vessel first and then proximal part. But the aspiration patients. In contrast, okay, the patient is yours. You have to do the best for the patient. So I hope that everyone has their own conclusion. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Very nice talk. Maybe just one quick question. in STEMI patients, we are doing PCI for complete revascularization. As you mentioned, there are possibilities of causing further risk to the patient. Is there any way that you can estimate whether they have renal impairment, renal disease before you intervene or consider to stage the procedure to a later time?
Yes, thank you, Prof, for your questions. Of course, we do have some risk score to estimate the risk of renal replacement. It is a MERA score, I think it's presented by Rosanna Mera. We do have this score, but I myself don't remember it because it is, I have to say that it's very little used in clinical practice. I think it is, and no one can, can predict the procedure, because you see in my case, it looks very simple. You think that is just a 30-minute case. You aspirate it and then you put a stent and you quit, maybe very fast, but actually it takes more than 3 hours. So if you ask about the risk score to estimate the risk of renal failure after the procedure, I think we do have a risk score. Of course, it is based on age, based on the clinical condition, BP, baseline creatinine, but during the procedure, I think it is based on the operator only to decide that if we should prolong the procedure or not. It is not.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we can move to the next talk. Also will be the next talk will be given by my colleague, Professor Lim Su-Tek from the Heart Center. He is talking on STEMI FFR measurement for non-culprit lesion in STEMI, tips and tricks.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. Ko. Good morning, friends and colleagues. Just follow on Dr. Lin's excellent talk. I'd like to mention that to do this FFR measurement for non-culprit lesion in sorry, how do I move this? I think the video didn't move. But it's okay. I think the previous video just want to show It's okay. It just shows that a patient will come in with inferior MI. Then we put in a stent, and then after putting in the, and then we see this one. You can see that the LAD has an intermediate borderline lesions, both in the proximal to mid segment, and then the cert was okay. Sorry that I think this video not moving. Fortunately, they have put in too many videos. As mentioned by Dr. Lin, then at that point, then we need to decide what is the assessment method of the physiologic significance of this lesion, whether we just based on angiography, just eyeballing, or angiography based on physiology, things like the QFR or the virtual FFR, if the software is available in the lab, or wire-based physiology, FFR or the IFR, and or we just defer it for a non-invasive stress test. And then the next thing that we need to think, that Lin mentioned, is the timing of the PCI. And this has to be individualized. And most of the trial, except the culprit trial, culprit shock trial, so that in the non-shock patient, if doable, I think the concept is if patient has a hemodynamically significant lesion, then we should try to do it early, but how early it is depends on many factors. It has to be individualized. And if we look at this earlier trial, we can see that the determination for the hemodynamic significance can be based on the angio, can be based on the FFR from the earlier study. And or in the conservative arm may be based on just symptoms and the non-invasive stress test subsequently. So I just want to talk about this FFR part. I think we are familiar, the colleagues here are all familiar with the FFR. I just want to touch on one or two aspects of this FFR, not so much the practical aspect, how it is done, everyone is familiar, but just a few conceptual things about this FFR. I think there are a few questions that we need to ask. Number one, in the acute phase of the AMI, does AMI cause significant changes in the non-infarct territory to render the FFR not accurate or not reliable? I think that is a very important question. And then, which physiologic index is better, FFR, IFR, or resting indices, or some hyperemic indices, right? And then does the measured FFR, IFR value change with time? So I think these are the relevant questions that we need to address. We must remember that the FFR actually is a simplified version of the coronary physiology. And the FFR is actually the ratio of the hyperemic myocardial blood flow in the stenotic territory divided by the normal hyperemic myocardial blood flow in the absence of stenosis. And then the flow, there's this flow with, and the pressure gradient and the resistance equation, and you will substitute that in. And then in the setting of the hyperemia, the coronary resistance is supposed to be very low, very low. And so they can be taken out from the equation. And then if the distal coronary bed is okay, is healthy, then the pulmonary vein, the so-called coronary wedge pressure, is also supposed to be very low. And in this formula, with this formula, we simplify it, and if the PV is near to 0, then the FFR then is simplified to become the PD divided by PA. So you can see that the derivation of this formula depends on a few assumptions. But we know that in the AMI setting, and in patients say with elevated left ventricular and diastolic pressure, or patients with a left ventricular hypertrophy, the downstream pressure is not near 0, right? So this oversimplification may introduce some problem. So the real question in the AMI is this: if the LAD has an AMI, is a time, in 1994, was done only about a month later. So there was some problem. We actually, at the time of the first study, we don't know whether the infarct vessel actually has opened up. And then as a control, they took 10 patients with the stable IHT as a control. If we look at the right hand side, we can see that the infarct vessel, and the non-infarct, called remote region here, both of them actually had a low myocardial blood flow. And after 6 months, you can see that the remote region, the non-infarct region, actually has improved blood flow. But if we compare with the control group on the very right hand side, the control group is a much better one. So the signal from this study indicate that even in the non-infarct territory, there is actually some compromise in the microvascular function, and then this will recover with time. But even after 6 months in this particular study, it has not recovered completely. So if we perform FFR early enough during the acute phase, it might introduce some problem, right? So that was the first trial that raised some alarm signal. Then in 2006, there was this bigger study from the Michael Beck's group, looking at 100 patients with anterior AMI, with primary PCI done, and at the time of the primary PCI, a Doppler wire was put in to check the coronary flow reserve in infarct artery and the non-infarct artery, and measure it at the time of the primary PCI 1 month later, and 1 week later, and then 6 months later. And if we look down there, sorry, the words is a little bit small, you can also see the same trend, that the coronary flow reserve actually increased gradually in both the infarct territory as well as the non-infarct vessel, gradually from the time of the AMI 1 week later to 6 months later. All right. So the signal appears to suggest that during the acute phase there is microvascular dysfunction in the non-culprit territory. Then there is another study published in 2015 looking at 44, again STEMI patient, successful PCI, but this time instead of an invasive wire, they use a PET scan to try to quantify the coronary flow and look at the rest and the hyperemia. And the first study was actually 1 week after the AMI, and the second study 3 months later. And again, the same pattern emerged. So these three studies, in totality, signal the and then also look at this IMR, the index of microcirculatory resistance. And then as a control group, they take a group of the patient with a stable IHD with a similar angiographic degree of narrowing, meaning 40 to 80%, and then compare the value of the FFR and the IFR. At least angiographically, say the group with the stable IHD maybe say 60% narrowing, and then the group with the acute MI, but in the non-culprit lesion has 60% angiographic stenosis. Let's compare and see whether the IFR and FFR are the same. So lo and behold, okay, actually they find that the patient that has a non-infarct vessel, the FFR and the IFR assessed, the value actually coincide, not too different from one with a stable IHD. And based on this, yeah, the conclusion is that, and then they also find that the tighter the degree of narrowing, yeah, the FFR and the IFR change in the corresponding manner. Alright? Yeah, the tighter it is, the IFR and the FFR drop in the appropriate and the expected manner. Yeah. So since the two of them look the same, so the conclusion is that the culprit vessel of AMI actually showed that FFR, and both FFR and the IFR can be used to assess the physiologic significance of the lesion in the non-infarct territory. And so these are some further tests of the IMR value. They are all consistent. So now we have a Korean study. They say that FFR is okay. But we have some other study. They say that FFR may not be that accurate. How do we reconcile this study? Yeah. But if we look at the patient population, the earlier study were mainly patients with a larger amount of infarction, right? And a lot of them are anterior MI or full MI, the ST elevation MI. Whereas the Korean one, yeah, 66% are non-ST elevation MI, yeah. Only 34% are ST elevation MI. We think that the amount of macular damage may be different, yeah. But what we can say is this: the FFR, IFR, IMR, and CFR in non-culprit vessel stenosis, if there is no very large MI, probably will be okay. All right. If there is a very large MI, we are not so sure. We are not so sure. And then there is this very elegant animal experiment, again from Korea. Yeah, they create lesion in the LAD and the lesion in the circumflex artery, and then introduce the microsphere into the LAD to cause LAD infarction. Right? And then at every introduction measured during the acute phase in the non-infarct vessel. Perhaps we can say like this, in majority of AMI patients, and also in the swine microvascular damage model, there is no significant microvascular dysfunction in the non-culprit territory. Therefore, if this is correct, the FFR and the IFR can be used to accurately assess the physiologic significance of the lesion in the non-culprit vessel. Alright, so the take-home message is, does AMI cause changes? Probably not in majority of patients. And then both FFR and IFR can be used to assess the physiologic significance. Which is better? I think both are equally useful. If both are equally useful, then maybe we don't have to if the value is not in the borderline zone, then we probably can need not do the hyperemic stimulation. And does the measured FFR and IFR value change with time? Some conflicting data, right? Yeah, this one will need a little bit more study. The earlier studies suggest that they change, they gradually increase, and then some of the newer one appear to contradict this. I think so. So that is the main conceptual consideration for the FFR measurement of the stenosis in the non-infarct vessel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lim, for very update and comprehensive presentation. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Nguyễn Đỗ Anh from Hospital Nhân dân Gia Đình in Ho Chi Minh City will present the roles of thrombus aspiration in primary PCI.
To my chairman, panelists, and my colleagues, I'm so sorry that I don't know to prepare this lecture, this presentation in English just with me, so that I think that I use some medical term I use maybe not exactly. My presentation is the impact of thrombus aspiration in STEMI. All we know that the thrombus is the main part of physiology in STEMI, and also, and all treatment now, all we try to how to treat the thrombus. All we know that we have the antithrombotic agent and also ACE. And ACE an interventionist. All we try how to thrombosation, how to aspirate the thrombus. In the past, we also have mechanic. We also, I think that the Berlin protocol is very familiar with the mechanic thrombus aspiration in the past. But actually, in the past, we also some of the trial that convinced that the mechanics and manual is that the same, and so now I presented my I present when at the period of that the manual thrombus aspiration. The first trial, when we concept about the impact of the thrombosation, we start is the trial. This demonstrate the effectiveness of this. We start with TAVAC. Why I choose TAVAC? Because all we hear that the TAVAC is the landmark study to demonstrate is to change our behavior. It also is change the guideline recommendation in ACC, in ESC. Is the single center of Montreal is the retrospective open label trial, and this is we quit the more than 10,000 patients with STEMI under primary PCI and randomized to the emergency room to manual aspiration. We use as bucket there. We divide the two groups. The first group is we use the trouble aspiration, and the second group is the conventional PCI. And the one we know that they randomize the two groups before CAG, and so that is we have a very good results. And if we assess that it is the 30 days, and 30 days with two groups is the conservatively is the 4%, and the versus the 2.5% with the B-value is the 0.007. But actually, we continue to follow up this on the patient, and we see that they also had the B-value now is the 0.004. Is mean it get the statistical meaningful, and also because the good result from the TAPAS trial, so that we change the guideline recommendation on ESC, and also the ACC is the 1 and 2 years later. But actually, I think that the heavy is just only 5 years, because the 5 years later we got this stroke, and in 2012 we also had the STAR trial. STAR trial is we quit own the patient with STEMI on Sweden, 29 center, and from Denmark and Iceland. We know that the patient volume is very large. We have if we compare to the TAPAS trial, we see that the volume wise, the stream like to the large bigger. You see, the annual volume the patient in the static trial is more than the 7th of the patient is randomized, and also we know that it different from TAPAS trial. This TAPAS trial we divided the two groups after CAG. It means that after we had the results of the coronary angiogram, and also we decided that even though we do the blind randomized, actually after the CAG results. But it's still surprising. It's the result is not the age we have. We see that stress trial at the clinical outcome at the 30 days, and on the death from any cause or reinfarction is still the PCI, or the PCI with the thrombus aspiration. Is we see the B-value is not get the statistic meaningful. It means that it's two groups are the same. It's my surprise, and also the result is the same like the 6 month. If we compare after primary endpoint, the CV death, the CS, the hospital MI, or the neural failure or stroke, it's not different. It's two groups. And after 1 year, when we consider about the endpoint, the all cardiac rehospitalization, MRIs, and thrombosis, it's not different. It's two groups. I think it's the same as the news for all the fans, the interventionist fans of the thrombus aspiration. And because of the results of trial, all we know that immediately and 1 year later, the ACC and ERC also now practice the guideline for recommendation or recommend to do the conversion when we do the primary PCI from class 2A to class 2B. But actually, not stop at this time. And that 3 years later, we have also the larger and also the larger randomized trial. Now we see as the third is the total trial. The total trial is the multi-center, it is worldwide in the North, South America, Europe, and also Asia Pacific. Related to 20 nations with the 78 center. And also we note that nearly the 90% is related to Europe and also the America. We totals of the 1,000 patients enrolled to 2010-2014. And the total study trial, we randomize, and not now. We also randomize before the CHE results, but 2 groups. The first group is routine open manual thrombectomy followed by PCI. The second is the PCI alone is mean the only bilateral thrombectomy. And also the primary outcome is CV that cardiogenic shock lung and plus the IV heart failure has the 30 days, 6 months, and also 1 year. And also we also noted that about safety outcome, the stroke at the 30 days. Now we have the results. The clinical outcome of the total trial is the 30 days. We see about the CV that the shock and class 4, and also thrombosis or TVL. Also the same in 2 groups, the thrombectomy with PCI or just with conventional or PCI alone. And even though when we consider about the primary endpoint is the CV that and by shock was the same is 2 groups. Is the repeatedly is the 7% and 9.6%. Also, we also look at the secondary endpoint is the CV that recurrent MI, cardiogenic shock. Also the same is 2 groups. I think it's the sad news for all friends of the conversation at that time. And so it's no different. It's after 1 year. But actually, it's not a good result, but also have some related to the safety outcome. Also note that now I think it's the first trial. It was a randomized foundational trial about the risk of stroke outcome after when we do the global aspiration between the intervention PCI. So we see that, and also the risk of stroke also raised, even though within the 30 days until 6 months also. We see the statistic like this for simple is not that. It means that if we do TA, it means if we do 1,000 cases, it's when the 4 cases were quite from stroke after 30 days. I think also another bad news. So now, keep calm, and also we just turn back and also see all the clinical evidence for positive and negative effect of the global aspiration in PCI. We also see the trial. We see the yellow is not advocated, and the relate to the AMI. Also, we see the infarct artery is calcified or not calcified, aortic or aneurysm artery, because we know that some lesions like this have grown to be reduced, typically low and started up, even though we do primary PCI. And we know that ischemic brain conditioning. Another the cupric lesion. The cupric lesion is mean that what is the characteristics of the lesion is the arteriosclerotic rupture, erosion rupture, and decrease of the corpus prudens is very important. But actually, we also know that it's the total trial also had a subgroup. We divide the two groups is the high and low to corpus prudens. Even though we have no meaning when we do the proposition, even though we have the higher stroke, it will do with the high proposition group. And the last is the success of PCI and the thrombus aspiration. And the TA, we also have some mechanism to increase the incidence of stroke from the thrombus, from the additional when we use the, even though we're very simple, like the sheet we use the catheter, the procedure time, even though we use a mechanic medicine also affects. Last is the stroke may cause by addition factor, because we know that many of stroke occurred more than 30 days after primary PCI. So it's funny that we see that the guideline recommendation like the roller coaster for to do the thrombus aspiration. We can see it clearly when the ESC, we see the 2B, 2A, 2B, 2A, and plus 2B. And even though not only ESC and also ANC, we also now we know that in the 2000 they also have the same and also have the same idea that it's not routine to do the proposition when you primary PCI, but just when we do selective thrombus aspiration is class 2B, the level C. So the current static of mind now, what we do? What is the Dr. Zoe, the total principal investigator, said, I think we all wonder where the evidence change practice and how long is that. So I think that practice does not follow, we not follow the guideline. I think it's true because when we see the retrospective cohort study of NCDR, we see the trend to do the primary, we do the thrombus aspiration in America. It's very interesting. Even when we do by when we do the proposition, just only nearly about the 12% of cases. And even though after the infused AMI and also some of the trial tests and total trial, the behavior to do the proposition is decline remarkable. Even though now you see you do the 2016 just around 5%. And also they have also another interesting statistic about the operator. We see nearly more than 30% of the operator never use a proposition in US. And even though 60% of the operator they do from the 0% the proposition to the to 5% when cases when they do primary PCI. So now we have another idea. Interventionists and continue to use the IT in select K. Now select K always because there is some selecting that is facilitated directing setting. Order accrue that because the actual training of the trial operators and they want to mandatory to use the thrombectomy regardless of the thrombus burden, like the spec up from the same key of the NCDR PCI registry. Why we will never stop aspirating coronary thrombin? Because We also have the term that the oculostenotic reflex. It means that despite the irresistible temptation to do the delay the stenosis, even that, and so now it means that in this means that sự cám dỗ không cưỡng lại được khi mà nhìn thấy một cái sang tương hẹn. And also now we also have the new term is the ocular thrombotic relax. We see the thrombus. We also the irresistible temper to thrombosuction, because when we see relaxed thrombus, the easier to do, and also to introduce a appeal of thrombus to continue is make a correct option to do. And also, we know that the thromboaspiration make the primary PCI easier and perfect image. And also now turn back to the trial. Routine trial is not helpful but selective. It may be benefit. And also some many trial is show the no different, but some improve the clinical outcome. Why not? So what's the reason for it? Now we turn back another is real clinical practice in Europe.
Sorry, speakers.
The last. Yeah, we also see the triple success is just around the 50%. So so now the TA in PCI is unanswered question. So unanswered question. What we do routine. When we reach or not expected device improvement or answer we have to answer the basic reason. For conclusion, the thromboaspiration in STEMI is not the last chapter of the long story. The future role of TA in STEMI is inversion. So now there is the little hard evidence to support even the selective TA. And how about you? If you are the interventionist, you will retain the TA candidate in your toolkit, will you? Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Doan, for this good difference of the thrombus aspiration. A lot of good questions are raised, and let us invite Professor to answer some of these, and then without strong evidence, and see how you can convince us that the thrombus aspiration catheter should still be kept in the lab, and how it should be properly used.
Thank you, Dr. Lipstic, for the kind introduction. So I think a little bit easier for me to get the time. I will speak in Vietnamese for my colleagues over here. Như chúng ta cũng đã vừa biết là trong cái bài giới thiệu của bác sĩ Đỗ Anh, chúng ta nói rất là rõ về cái việc mà chúng ta hút huyết khối là có một cái lịch sử nó rất là thăng trầm, và hiện nay thì nó sẽ đã cũng được coi là một cái trường hợp mà chúng ta được thực hành thường quy nữa. Just like that. Next time. Okay. Ở đây chúng ta gặp cái ca như này, một bệnh nhân nam giới 39 tuổi, nhồi máu xong dưới giờ thứ 7 và có một cái cục huyết khối to. Đây là bệnh nhân thì câu hỏi đặt ra là hút hay không hút.
Những các cái nghiên cứu thì nó lúc thì được, lúc thì không, rồi cuối cùng nghiên cứu tổng hợp thì cho thấy là gì? Giữa hút huyết khối và không hút huyết khối về các cái biến cố chính về tử vong không khác nhau với cái thống kê, có vẻ hơi nghiêng một chút về cái hút huyết khối. Tuy nhiên là cái biến chứng gây ra tai biến lại là cao hơn ở cái nhóm mà chúng ta hút huyết khối, hay nói cách khác là ủng hộ việc là chúng ta chỉ cắt một vài thôi. Cái sự tai biến mạch não gây ra cái stroke này thì là cao hơn một cách đáng kể. Thế do cho nên là cái khuyến cáo mới nhất thì người ta nói không chỉ định hút huyết khối thường quy cho những cái bệnh nhân bị nhồi máu cơ tim mà chúng ta can thiệp đi đầu. Và đặc biệt là người ta cũng nói là chưa rõ cái việc của chúng ta hút huyết khối thì nó có mang lại hiệu quả gì hay không, nên là nó rõ, nhưng nó vẫn là trong những cái trường hợp mà chúng ta gọi là thực hành lâm sàng, những cái ca mà đặc biệt thì chúng ta vẫn có quyền hút khối, và chúng ta cũng vừa được nghe bác sĩ đây báo cáo là cái tỷ lệ mà hút khối nó giảm xuống rất nhiều, nhưng hiện nay nó chỉ còn khoảng 5% các ca nhồi máu cơ tim ở Hoa Kỳ, dưới 5% mà thôi. Nhưng ở Việt Nam chúng ta thực hành lâm sàng, chúng tôi cũng thấy là cái tỷ lệ chúng tôi hút khối cũng còn khá cao, bởi vì cái nặng hút khối vẫn rất là nhiều, khoảng 10 đến 20% trường hợp hiện nay chúng tôi vẫn hút khối cho những trường hợp bệnh nhân như vậy. Thế bây giờ vấn đề chúng ta là về đi sâu về mặt kỹ thuật thì chúng ta hút huyết khối thì có mấy phương tiện. Ở Việt Nam thì cái máy hút huyết khối mà Angiojet này thì ở chỗ trung tâm viện tim mạch chúng tôi có, chúng tôi rất ít khi sử dụng tới. Còn đa số là dùng các cái phương tiện là chúng ta gọi là manual, chúng ta hút huyết khối bằng tay. Một số các cái trường hợp huyết khối rất nặng, các bác sĩ còn sử dụng cái dụng cụ lấy huyết khối của mạch não, là chúng ta người ta còn có thể sử dụng như vậy, nhưng mà cái đấy thì nó ít hơn. Thế thì câu hỏi đặt ra là làm thế nào cho nó an toàn? Tại sao cái tỷ lệ mà nhồi máu não và tai biến mạch não của những trường hợp mà chúng ta hút kia nó lại bị tăng lên một cách đáng kể như vậy? Thì và trong thực hành chúng ta vẫn nên sử dụng trong một số trường hợp nhất định. Thì cái vấn đề mà hút huyết khối bằng máy gọi là Angiojet này thì chúng tôi cũng không đi sâu quá vào đây. Thì chúng ta, các bạn sau này các bạn có thì chúng ta biết là nó có các cái cơ chế khác nhau bằng máy, trong đó hiện nay hay dùng nhất là cái Angiojet này. Thì cái cơ chế của Angiojet này gì? Nó là một cái cơ chế nó làm phun ra một cái chất làm tan cái cục máu đông, nhưng mà cái lỗ đằng sau nó thì lại hút luôn cái cục máu đông vào. Ở đây thì chúng tôi muốn thấy đây, chúng ta thấy là gì? Khi nó phun ra những cái dịch để nó làm tan máu đông, và những cục máu đông bị đập vỡ nhỏ và nó sẽ hút vào trong cái lòng mạch như vậy. Tuy nhiên cái này về mặt hình ảnh thì rất là đẹp, khi chúng ta hút huyết khối thì chúng ta lại thấy là nó hút hoàn toàn cái được cái hết sạch cái trong cái lòng của mạch này. Nhưng mà thực tế là cái thử nghiệm lâm sàng của nó thì lại là không có hiệu quả hơn, thậm chí có thể làm tăng một số biến cố nhất định. Và đặc biệt là nếu so sánh cái hút bằng tay trước đây thì nó không hơn gì, giá thành tốn kém. Tuy nhiên nó vẫn là, chúng ta là bác sĩ hành lâm sàng thì với những cái ca đặc biệt và cái nặng khối rất lớn thì chúng ta cũng cần phải sử dụng. ta hút hết cả cái chỗ máu trong guiding catheter, sau khi nó hút cái ống hút nước khối ra ngoài rồi chúng ta lại hút cả cái máu trong catheter nữa, và chúng ta phải bơm và khẳng định là hút nước khối có thành công hay không. Và khi những cái mạch rất là lớn thì thậm chí trong một trường hợp chúng tôi có thể dùng những cái thiết bị khác thay vào những thiết bị ống lớn hơn, ví dụ như các cái guiding ST của chúng ta, guiding lớn hơn để hút vào tận sâu. Tuy nhiên khi làm những các cái này chúng ta phải hết sức là chú ý là nó không phải là đơn giản như chúng ta nghĩ. Đây là một trường hợp ví dụ như là chúng ta mô phỏng là chúng ta hút nước khối của một trường hợp bằng một cái dụng cụ export catheter, thì người ta sẽ hướng dẫn để các bạn có thể dễ hiểu hơn trong cái trường hợp như vậy. Thì ở đây ví dụ như là một cái trường hợp nó bị một cái nước khối như vậy, thì là cái ống hút nước khối để các bạn làm rồi thì rất là biết là rõ để chúng ta mô tả rồi, thì chúng ta sẽ thấy rằng là gì, đầu tiên mà giờ phải lái cái dây dẫn qua cái chỗ tổn thương, cái chỗ tắc đó, nhất là không đấy. Sau đó là chúng ta ở đây phương pháp này thì người ta lại là dùng cái phương pháp là đẩy ống thông qua trước, qua cái đoạn hết cái cục huyết khối đã, sau đó chúng ta mở ống tính và chúng ta kéo lại từ từ để cho cái cục máu đông nó hút về đây. Đấy, chúng ta thấy là khi cái khóa thì chúng ta mở ống tính để cho nó kéo về đây để nó hút, như vậy thì chúng ta được một cái nó sẽ tốt hơn như vậy. Nhưng mà chúng ta thấy là luôn luôn phải lưu ý là có 10% không thể để qua, không thể hút huyết khối dẫn đến có thể tắc mạch đoạn xa, có nguy hiểm bởi chúng ta đẩy vào lại không hút được nó làm sao, và đặc biệt là có xu hướng làm tăng được cái tai biến đột quỵ. Thì tại sao có thể tăng cái tai biến đột quỵ? Vì nó có rất nhiều nguyên nhân, mà một trong những cái nguyên nhân chính là biến chứng, ví dụ như là tắc mạch này, tắc cái nhánh khác, hút được huyết khối qua chỗ này rồi nhưng mà nó không được hút được vào trong ống, nó lại từ cái liên thất trước rơi ra động mạch mũ, chúng tôi đã gặp như vậy rồi. Thậm chí chúng ta có thể làm thô bạo tách thành động mạch vành hoặc là gập gãy catheter gây tắc mạch, đã từng xảy ra. Để có một số các cái mẹo hơn thì chúng ta có thể dùng các cái lõi ở trong này để chúng ta đẩy để cho nó rất ít bị gập hơn, thì một số các hãng người ta đã thiết kế có cái lõi ở trong rồi, hoặc là có thể dùng các hệ thống guiding catheter như là các cái ST để chúng ta biết được. Và nếu không có dòng chảy thì chúng ta phải có rút, thậm chí nếu chúng ta không biết động chúng ta phải rút cả cái catheter ra. Thì đây là cái trường hợp mà chúng ta thấy rằng là cái ca như vậy. Sau khi chúng tôi quyết định là vì cái bệnh nhân còn trẻ tuổi, gánh nặng huyết khối rất là nhiều, thì khi đó chúng tôi là quyết định chúng tôi phải đưa cái ống hút khối. Trong trường hợp này thì hút huyết khối bằng cái thông thường không hút được, càng cái thông thường không hút được, bởi vì nó rất là khó và nó to. Do đó cho nên sau khi không hút được bằng đó, chúng tôi quyết định là chúng tôi đã thay bằng cái ST. Ở đây là một trường hợp rất là đặc biệt, chúng tôi làm ST và sau đó chúng tôi đã hút ra một cái cục máu đông to như này, và bệnh nhân sau đó thì chúng ta thấy rằng là hút ra thì nó đã hầu như là không ra, chứng tỏ bệnh nhân này trẻ và trên một cái nền là cái xơ vữa và có một cái cục máu đông rất là lớn. Cho nên nếu chúng ta không hút ra, chúng ta không biết xử trí như nào, đấy là trong negative pressure, so the afterload is reduced. So of course, we have the EIP SOC 2 trial. It's the largest so far, the randomized trial control trial in the cardiogenic shock. And here the 600 patients who are either randomized to a BP or a control. And you can see that the 30 days and the 12 months mortality was similar between the group treated by EIP arms and as compared to the control group. And these results were reinforced by the lack of differences in secondary endpoint. So the current guidelines do not recommend the routine use of EIPP in cardiogenic shock. But however, as you know, that some experts still believe that selected patients may profit from this device. So then we have the lab active ventricular assist device and start with the Impala. So this one, the flow pump, which is inserted into the left ventricular, and here the blood is sucked from the left ventricular and prepared to the turbine to the aorta. And this shows the most empowering features of the device is that we actually have the LV unloaded and the anti-grade flow in the aorta. And percutaneous approach for the Impala we can perform with this 3.5 system in the CP system, and we can upgrade to like 2.5 liters per meter per minute under the perfect situation, and the CP system can up to the 5 liters. So the tandem heart is a percutaneous implantation, the ventricular access device, and this one is a transector cannula that offers the unique approach to the circulatory support by balancing two criteria factors. The first one is powerful pump to the end organ perfusion, and the second one is transector cannulation of the left atrium to the decompressed and breast of the left ventriculars. So what about the evidence concerning this active left ventricular assistance device? So far we have 4 randomized control trials have been performed using the tandem heart versus the EIPP control. But all the individual trials were underpowered, so to assess the effect of these devices in the clinical outcome. So that's why this one, the meta-analysis, we was performed, pulling all the individual data of this study, and you can see that observed the similar mortality in patients treated by either Impala or tandem heart as compared with the EIPP control. Nevertheless, with only 148 patients randomized, the study, I think that power is quite limited. So then we have the ECMO system as the most invasive system, and this one, the approach is a femoral and arterial venous approach in the cardiogenic shock patient. And we have very big venous cannula inserted in the right atriums. The blood one comes to the right atrium, pump into the extracorporeal membrane, and at this distance, the oxygen is come back to the aorta. So that's why we use a very big cannula, 18 frames, and we have retrograde perfusion into the aorta also. So there is no randomized trial on using the ECMO. So far, we have the propensity score match observational analysis available, and again, the group from the Amsterdam recently performed. And yes, you can see
running. And on the other hand, we should try to prevent complication, and often just possible the management of complications should be optimized. And this one I want to show you a couple of minutes how to achieve the optimal support and manage the complications. So what is the most common reason for the inadequate support? Evidently is the inadequate position of the device. And as you can see that in the right X-ray image, you can see that the X-ray marker of the tip of the intra-aortic volume pump is very high, somewhere on the left subclavian artery. So you need to remove it to a lower position, allow the system work properly. And in the middle image, you can see that the impella is inserted too far in the left ventricular and then doesn't really work anymore. So you have to have it again, you remove it a couple of the centimeters under the echo or fluoro control. EIBP reposition can be set performed without any additional imaging in CCU. With impella echo, you need some kind of imaging, either echo or fluoros. And then at the bottom images, you can see that the venous cannula appear to be rather high. And if you want a good flow, you can first leave it like that. But if you have the problem with the inadequate support, it is most likely the problems. So if the cannula position adequately, you have to inadequate flow due to the volume problem. You have to remember that if you have more than 20 frames venous cannula in the right atrium, you also can see the kickling line in this. And venous alarm is set on, the cannula is shut down to the right atrium, so you have to reduce the flow, give the volume in the system run again. And concerning the impella, evidently you allow volume, but you also think about the fact right of the heart failure and the low volume in the left system. And the system, I think that you should escalation to the ECMO. Then the detrimental complication is the thrombus formation, and especially setting of the ECMO, you have to remember that we haven't have the retrograde flow in the aorta. So after load increase, so some patients will have the very low injection in the left ventricular, and it can lead to the complete thrombus formation in the left ventricular. On the other image, the thrombus formation of the aortic valve in the patient doesn't eject anymore. So you can see it maybe result in the intensive anticoagulation. In any case, you see the patient does not inject anymore ventricular, you have to think about the venting mechanisms. So concerning about the complication, of course we have the bleeding is in the major problem, and this is a hematoma from the groin. The patient had performed ECMO, and what you can see is that very routine practice. And the diffuse bleeding, you have to take care of local bleeding by the compression or send it back with the local epinephrine. And a major breathing problem, you have the incidental decannulation. I think that you have to clamp the line, you stop the pump, start the CPR and control the bleeding. But most of the case, the next couple of minutes, the patient will deteriorate and die. This is mainly due to the fact that when the patient moves, eventually most of the patient mechanical ventilated and deep sedation. But there are some situations. You don't want the patient to be the mechanical ventilated. For example, you want to see how the patient is doing, and you can stop the sedation. It's very, very dangerous situation. And in emergency situations, such as the patient with the hypoxic or hypoxic cramps, the most rapid way to stop the patient from moving is the sedation plus the muscle relaxants.
no reflow during primary PCI for STEMI, 10x tips and tricks. No conflict for this one. So, well, we know that I had to discuss one case in Malaysia live, and they presented a case for me to discuss. And this is a 51-year-old anterior AMI patient who had received intravenous streptokinase following cardiac arrest and had PCI done the next day because it's very tight LAD lesion. You can see that after ballooning there was some slow flow already, but the operator decided to still continue with stent implantation, and following stent implantation basically there's no reflow at all. So the issue is what happen and what should we do? Well, we know that if you have no flow at all, then especially in the setting of acute myocardial infarction, it's going to create a major problem for your patient. As we had heard from many of the previous speakers, that if you have no reflow during myocardial infarction, then you are going to infarct your left ventricle, and your left ventricular infarct size will enlarge, will become bigger, as well as the cardiac function will deteriorate. And what that translates is that at 5 years, your outcome is going to be bad. Your 5-year survival really is not good in this really quite big series of patients, of more than 1,000 patients. We look at patients who have no reflow, the outcome is much worse compared to patients who have normal flow. Now, what are the causes of no reflow in STEMI? Of course, the first one is that you embolize the thrombus that you try to intervene on during your primary PCI. But more importantly, I think and I believe that the atraumatous emboli that occurs together with the thrombus is the one that really results in permanent occlusion of the small arterioles and capillaries, and that probably infarcts the vessel. Also, there's because of the myocardial infarction itself, there is inflammation and edema, and that contributes to slow flow and no reflow. If you add on top thrombus and atraumatous embolization, which can also produce spasm of the arterioles, and therefore also in the vicious cycle cause the slow flow and no reflow to occur. Now, the pathophysiological causes of a myocardial infarction is quite clear. I think all of us know that the main cause of myocardial infarction is what we call a plaque rupture on a thin cap fibroadenoma, or TCFA, and that is area, but a lot of calcium. You can see here the whole vessel wall is basically calcified. But I'm trying to show you this because we can know the different pathophysiologies in patients who have these lesions, these different type of lesions, and how they can lead to thrombus, embolization, and slow flow, no reflow. So if you do a OCT of these plaque lesions, you can see that the lipid layer is very high in plaque ruptures. The TICFA is very high. But if you IVUS that, then the plaque erosion is okay, I think, and there's a lot of positive remodeling in the patients who have a plaque rupture, but there's a lot of negative remodeling in the patients who have a calcified nodule. So I think because of that very large plaque volume and the positive remodeling, then there's a higher plaque load, I think, in the vessel, and that can produce more adverse outcomes. So in patients after balloon intervention for these cases, if you have a plaque rupture, then your risk of having myocardial blast rate less than 1, which basically means no flow, is much higher in patients who have plaque rupture and no reflow as well, whereas in patients who have a calcified plaque as well as the plaque erosions, then the risk of embolization, I think, is much lower because there's not much of arteriomatous debris inside, and therefore probably the risk of slow flow and no reflow, as demonstrated in this series, is much less compared to plaque rupture. So higher risk of slow flow, no reflow, again, correlates therefore to larger vessels. You have a large thrombus load, you have hepatic diffuse arteriomatous disease. All this produce a lot of cholesterol emboli. If you have a late presentation of your STEMI, then the thrombus tends to be harder, bigger, larger, and therefore again produce thromboembolism, and of course cardiogenic shock, or cause a vein graft occlusion, also produce all these infarcts and slow flow, no reflow. So how do we go about preventing slow flow and no reflow in STEMI? Of course, we need to preload them as quick as they arrive at the emergency department with the high dose statin. It sounds very illogical to give them first because you know that statins take some time to work, but I'll explain a little bit later on. So that's what we should do even if they are already on statins. We could also consider giving them 2 intravenous or intracoronary in the cath lab 2B3A blockers if you have them. We hardly ever use them, I think, in Asia, so not very many centers do that, and I think in our heart center also we do not routinely use that, unfortunately. I think because also of cost. Thrombus aspiration, if you note that there is a very large higher risk of stroke. So should we do thrombus aspiration in high thrombus load of patients? The trialists themselves did a collaboration among all the 3 big trials, the TAPAS, the TASTE, and this major trial that was just presented by Jolly. And they showed that actually if you combine all the 3 trials with a high thrombus load burden, then the cardiovascular death at 30 days is actually significant for these patients in favor of doing thrombus aspiration, but unfortunately you have a higher stroke risk. So if you have already no reflow, then what should you do? Of course, you need to prevent, like I mentioned, to give statins and all the aspiration if possible. If you already got slow flow, no reflow, then of course prophylactic vasodilators are needed. You need to deliver it distally into the distal circulation, because if you give it at the guiding catheter, it doesn't flow downstream, it doesn't have any effect. Many different drugs can be used. I would like to explain a couple of differences between the drugs and the devices that we can use to also prevent no flow and no reflow is that if you already meet the slow flow already, for example, the case that I showed you, then probably we may be better off not to implant the stent, but wait a couple of days, make it more stable before we do the stenting. We could also consider undersizing your balloon and dilatation and stent size, because then the bigger your size embedded into the vessel wall, you can embolize more. Using other different kind of stents can also be considered, although not generally used. And if you have an embolic protection device, of course that is the best, because you can trap all the arthromatous debris. Currently we only have these filter devices available. All these better devices unfortunately are gone from the market. Well, if you already no flow has already occurred, then try not to post dilate your stent if you already implanted a stent, okay? And then try to re-establish flow, like I mentioned, giving the vasodilators, aspirate, thrombectomy, provide hemodynamic support. In terms of using adenosine versus nitroprusside, apparently nitroprusside gives you a better outcome, but it depends on the dose of adenosine. It's still controversial, so not quite sure exactly what is the optimal drug to use. How do you deliver your drug if you don't have any aspiration catheter? This is an easy way you can do. You have your own balloon, you can make a few holes inside and then put your PCI balloon distally and then inject through. But there's a couple of tips which I don't have time to go into. So if you implant your stent in a no
mentioned, I think that the IPP still play an important role in our country and as a community also, because it's quite easy to approach and it's cheaper and we compare with other devices. And IPP can be still used in selected patients. And in my institute, we still apply the IPP in very high risk PCI and lab intervention also. And honestly, in our center, we only have the IPP and ECMO.
I think the past we are really routine to use the EPP in conditioning shock when we do the primary PCI. But actually, when the guideline has changed and also it's affected their clinical practice. Even though I had the topic, also the study, the role of AEP,